Hey everybody, and welcome back to Shaq Nasty Jim Plays Hearts of Iron 4, where we are doing our Make America Great Again run. We are now at the election of 1936, and I think this is going to be a turning point for us. Right now, the Democratic Party is fully in power. The fascists are on the rise because we're pushing them on the rise, but we'll see how this goes. The day of the presidential election has arrived. Incumbent Franklin Delano Roosevelt has already implemented several of the programs referred to collectively as the New Deal, intending to take the U.S. out of the Great Depression. While many of the efforts have been popular, his plans to further extend the role and power of the government have been met with criticism from his opponent, Republican Al Landon. Coming from the oil industry, Landon wants to see greater economic freedom, while Roosevelt and the Democratic Party want to expand Social Security and ensure economic stability. This election may be a close call or a major victory for the Democrats. So the Democrats, 4 more years, we get infrastructure construction speed and national unity, or we do the Republicans. We must safeguard the ideals and of the American system. So we get industrial research time, industrial concern, and ideology drift defense, or I think I'm going to go for Democrats 4 more years because I don't want any more drift defense. We already have a lot of drift defense. So go ahead and get the New Deal, a set of policies and programs initiated by Franklin D. Roosevelt, a reaction to the hardships suffered during the Great Depression, which will make the infrastructure construction speed faster and give us more national unity. If we keep that after we go fascist, awesome. If we don't, I'm not too worried. So let's continue, and we have a research slot we can use. It's nowhere near 1938, so I'm not going for that yet. I think I'm going to go for maintenance company. Unlock that really quick. It should be super, super fast. I'm going to finish up carrier primacy. And the second we get the chance, probably once we get done with a couple of these, like, so anti-tank, do that really quick. Once we get done with a couple of the carrier focuses and the naval focuses, probably going to try to go for the Monroe Doctrine, because I'm not wanting to do any of these though until we flip to fascist. Once we flip to fascist, I am perfectly fine doing the rest of the Monroe Doctrine, but until then I might just reaffirm it and hold it there. But we have a long way to go for that, because we haven't even had our first event yet, really. But it should be coming up pretty soon. I'm expecting it here in the next few months. Yeah, because this popular, it's already scaled. I hate how quickly it's scaled back. So that makes, if you're taking a place like Mexico or Canada, Mexico is mostly neutral, Canada's mostly democratic, but they don't have the drift defense that we do. So it's very easy for them to drift over to fascist. Poland, any place that starts out neutral, super quick. That's just a matter of months, and boom, you're whatever. But I was playing through as Britain in a test game last night to see if it would work, and how a fascist Britain would work with their national focuses, and it really doesn't. But Fascist America works, because all it does is it changes all of this democratic support to fascism support. So, we get puppet focus on Venezuela. Fascist supporters will then set a civil war instead of democratics, and all of these people start gaining fascist ideology, a permanent fascist ideology gain instead of democratic. So that's going to be really good to help us get the New World Order achievement. Alright, carrier primacy. Air power will be needed in the battles to come, and the most practical means of extending its range is the use of aircraft carriers. We must create more advanced and specialized models. And we will. Get Bureau of Aeronautics, escort efficiency. I think I'm fund the Navy. That's what I do, fund the Navy. So we can automatically just start going down the naval doctrine tree. Because like I said, we're going to need it. kind of isolated without a navy. It's almost like playing a Great Britain EU4 or any island nation EU4, obviously. Right? So we have motorized research now. And I think I'm going to get the T1 heavy tank. Just to get that out of the way. And also focus on... well, we have the carriers for this year, so I think I'm okay not focusing on that yet. Actually, no, I'm going to get the... I'm going to get the new battleship. North Carolina class battleship. I'm also going to look at our production. We have 10 military factories, which isn't a lot. But that doesn't mean we can't start building some tanks. And we can even upgrade, we can even create tank variants if we wanted to. But I think I'm going to throw a tank in there and just start producing it a little bit. Recruit and deploy. Light tank. Throw in a recon company. I can't throw in anything, never mind. So I think I'm going to wait for that. Wait till we get some sort of military experience. I could train units, I guess, but I really don't want to. Until then, I'm just waiting on people to start building world tension. February of 1939, that's going to happen. If not sooner. The Germans are now focusing on naval rearmament, reinforcing the empire, which gives them some unity up, and we have a free dockyard. So, I think we're going to look at building some new ships. What are we set on for a while? What do we not get for a little while? Everything else comes in 1940. So I think I'm going to go for... I'll actually go for the Virginia class or the Wichita class after this. Because I don't want to update something. I don't want to create a variant and it go to waste. Actually, yeah, we have 7 free dockyards. So actually, why don't we just build a few carriers. Alright, pause this. So that does it for that, and go ahead and get the Sims class destroyer. Yorktown, that's not what I wanted. Cancel that. Alright. So 3,500 manpower, 530, 16. 530, 16, 10 to 2. 10 to 2. 1140, 1140, 56, 80, 81, 55, 80. Decommission anything I can decommission, honestly. Clear up this list a little bit. And yes, edit this carrier, I think. Gonna give it a little bit more deck space. Or maybe not that much deck space, shit. A little bit of deck space for that, and then the same for the submarine. Gonna give it, I think, stronger torpedoes. Visibility, max speed. Yeah, let's give it some better torpedoes. No. It's a hard choice. I think I'm gonna wait for the battleship to be done before I do anything else with it. But that means that that carrier that we're building can be built, right? And that means we're gonna need some chromium for this carrier. Japan, might as well. Japan's gonna need to like us anyway here in the future. Alright, that was a maintenance company done, and don't really need MPs just yet. We could get field hospital, we could get, let's get radio. Let's go ahead and just get radio out of the way. So we can get, you know, radio companies and logistics companies and all that. Until that, which can be producing mostly convoys. Sending a lot out there. France and Japan, Colombia, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Philippines, and Paraguay. So all these South American countries are going to love us, and hopefully they're going to flip to fascist sometime after we do. And we're at 26% now, so the mean time to happen is on a countdown. We are eventually going to get a great fascist movement in America. Don't know when that's going to be, but it's going to happen. It's probably going to be another few months, hopefully. Because I'm not really wanting to wait that long, because as soon as we do that, we can start going down the Monroe Doctrine tree, and hopefully somebody will cause a whole bunch of world tension, and we can get the rest of this done. Because I really want the giant wakes to be done. I hate the fact that we have really crappy factories right now. We can't do anything for the factories. Yep, same thing for the war bonds. Decryption plus 20%. Special service forces are going to be good in the end. But it's going to take a while for all that, honestly. So we might want to focus around that. That's what I'm going to try to do anyway. Because, you know, we have, you know, expand the USMC. So we're going to wait for that to get Marines too. We got fund the Navy. We must be able to adapt to anything new our enemies throw at us. Increased funding for Navy exercises will lead to more efficient Navy that can tactically outperform our enemies. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and expand the U.S. Marine Corps. So we can get Marines 2 when it comes up in a couple years. .8 years. Alright. Because that soft attack, that marine attack is going to be very important when we try to land troops in Portugal and Ireland and the United Kingdom. Alright, we're almost done with radio. And after that, we're going to start focusing down our base strike doctrine tree. Probably with carrier primacy first. Carrier battle groups, floating fortress, yep. That's definitely what we're going to focus on first. Alright, details. Oh, actually, I lied. Construction 1. I always forget that construction is a thing. Because I really want these factories to be done with as soon as possible. So, yeah. And we'll send these guys down to Houston. Why not? And we still need 10,000 infantry equipment. Honestly, I highly doubt that we'll get that amount of infantry equipment before we get equipment 2. It's just not going to happen. And we need more chromium now because I updated that. And we've just about drained Japan dry of chromium. But yeah, we will get a few carriers, which is awesome. I actually don't know if I want that many. I'm going to focus on getting 2 more carriers. $180 light tanks, Jesus Christ. The Chaffee, the Sherman, M6A1 Abram, M6A1, Patton, the Pershings. Yep. And once the Marine Corps is done, we're going to focus on Bureau of Aeronautics, export efficiency. Air War Planes Division might not be a bad idea. Tactical bomber, close air support, heavy aircraft, combined bomber offensive. Close air support might not be a bad one. And it's sort of up in the air what I do for air right now. Just because there's only so many things that can go on a naval ship. There's only, you know, naval bombers, fighters, air support. Love if those could, but they can't. Maybe the fact that once we get a base established overseas, getting bombers and all that would be perfect, though. Alright. So, Air War Plans Division. And as soon as we get Marines 2, we'll start training Marine units up. Actually, we can start training Marine units up now. Recruit and deploy Marines. We'll set them for Norfolk, Virginia. And all they need is infantry equipment, which is going to be the giant thorn in my side right now. Yep, because all of these are so freaking slow, thanks to that undisturbed isolation bullshit. The Hindenburg Disaster. The German passenger airship Hindenburg was destroyed today while attempting to dock at the Lakehurst Naval Air Station in the U.S. For reasons not yet determined, the airship was engulfed in flames and crashed to the ground, claiming 35 lives. Due to the scarcity and expense of helium, and the U.S. ban on exporting it, the Hindenburg, like all German passenger airships, was ultimately engineered to use hydrogen, which provides greater lift but is also flammable. With public faith shaken by this disaster and the rise of much faster passenger aircraft, this could spell an end of the era of airships. And we all know how that went. And China has rejected Japan's demands for an apology and territorial concessions, claiming instead that the breaking point of Japanese aggression has been reached. Interesting times indeed. So China didn't give Japan Beijing and just told them to fuck off instead. And now Japan gets a war with China. The Germans are focusing on naval efforts, encourage colonial elite, and an extra research slot for the French. Nice. Very nice. Hopefully the war with China will give us enough world tension to get rid of our mobilization and hopefully as much as we can. Hopefully we can get down to the giant wakes with this one war. I doubt it. It's probably going to take the German-Polish war to get down to the giant wakes, but a guy can dream. This will at least change it to isolation instead of civilian economy, but what can you do? And gains national spirit, prepare intervention, so we can still send Lindley stuff, but not much else. We'll plan orange, we'll plan red, we'll plan white, we'll plan black. And we got the North Carolina class ship and the T1 heavy tank. Alright, well, let's focus on production and synthetic oil right now, because we are way behind in that. I didn't even realize how far we were going to be behind in that until I saw we didn't even have construction. So that's going to be our focus for the next probably year, is having to get all this basic shit done. Dispersed industry. Actually, no. I'm going to want concentrated industry, because we're going to have enough factories in the end to do whatever the hell we want with them. Because we might only have 10 now, but as soon as the ball gets rolling. Fascist sympathies in the military. Several high-ranking members of the American military have expressed support, some privately and some openly, for the fascist movement in the United States. They feel the Democratic Party has forgotten how important discipline and patriotism is to keeping the country together, and are increasingly annoyed by the army being treated by the government as more of a tool than one of the nation's most important institutions. Some of them go as far to suggest that a new government is needed, one that knows how to lead the United States with strength and tradition into the next half of the century. This faction may not predominantly be politicians, but some of them have gained positions in the Department of Defense. If these developments continue, they may have sufficient political support to execute a coup. So the national spirit outranks the government. So if we can get a little bit more of the fascism in power, up to 50%, we can get a coup and just flip to fascist pretty easy. I could have done it to where we had a civil war, but I really don't want to deal with a civil war right now. That's just not on my list of things to do. Speaking of civil war, the Spanish Civil War. A civil war has erupted in Spain. Several generals seeking to overthrow the current government in Madrid have issued a pronunciamiento, and a large portion of the Spanish armed forces have answered their call to arms. The right-wing nationalist faction has occupied much of Spain, including the overseas territories. Loyalist forces and volunteers have been assembled under the left-wing Republican government, determined to resist the putsch to their latest breath. The battle for Spain has begun. And if we were, pretty much any other country, might as well send people over, send volunteers to whichever side we want. But we can't. Yep, and that's kicked it up to 7%. Awesome. 4 to Nationalists, 5 to Republican. Looking at this, the Nationalists probably end up being better equipped than the Republicans of Spain. Amelia Earhart circumnavigates the globe. The famous aviator Amelia Earhart, known to many as the Queen of the Air, has completed a flight around the world together with her navigator Fred Noonan, after a brief scare when the pair temporarily got lost while approaching Howland Island in the Pacific. The flight proceeded without incident, and this morning their Lockheed Electra touched down in Oakland, California. A ceremony is to be held in the White House next week, where Earhart is to be personally congratulated for her feat by the president. That'd be very interesting to actually see if we get an event for that too, though. Alright, we've researched the Sims class destroyer, and we could get the rest of these, but I think that 1938, 39, logistics, field hospital, 1939, 1939. Oh, here we go. Carrier primacy. Plus 20 organization, extra sortie, and extra naval targeting. Go for that. And we're about to get Air War Plans Division as well, which means that we can also focus on a little bit of the air doctrine. But until then, we're just going to sit on 0 political power for a long time. But I think once that ball gets rolling, once, you know, war propaganda hits and things actually start happening, we'll be okay. Yeah, 5 extra factories here in California, 3 factories there, 6 factories there. Yep. To make the right priorities in aviation as well as aircraft production will require long-term planning. The Air War Plans Division will ensure we have material, organization, and strategic plans. So, air doctrine stuff, national spirit, which grants us a whole bunch of production costs down, which is good. Strategic bombing, give us TAC bomber models and experience, close air support models, close air support and TAC bomber cost. I'm go bombing. I know I can't put, you know, bombers on ships, but if we get a whole bunch of range here up, and of course, as soon as I do that, Japan declares war and we're at 20%. Hopefully we can stay above 20 for a while, at least so I can get war propaganda, and we have to wait for this one to finish. So we can get war propaganda and prepare intervention. That's going to be so nice when we do. So nice. Hey, Verticore, how's it going, man? Until then, it's going to be more of just getting all these national spirits, getting our nation up to where we can actually fight. Like I said, this is an uphill battle at first. We still need 9,000 of these. We need 6,000 more tanks. Or 600 more tanks, excuse me. So it's going to take a while. Also, before I forget, might as well create towed anti-tank, towed anti-air, heavy tank. Just going to create all these, and I'll use them eventually. It's going to be a while, but eventually. So we have the, you know, we have the technology, we have the ability to give them units, but I'm not too worried about that right now. Gonna let all this stuff just boil over. And hopefully the fact that this unit training is just going so slow will pick up once we get more factories. At least we get extra output and extra construction speed. Free trade. Alright, here we go, our second event. Fascist Assault Division forms. The political and martial have always been intertwined in fascism. In parallel with its growing political movement, fascist parties have begun to form paramilitary organizations to protect against both internal and external threats. The internal threats being their political opponents. Although many people find this development worrying, the wave of militaristic furor has led to an increased amount of volunteers joining our armed forces. The political leaders of the movement have pointed out that their opponents have reason to be afraid. having the army permeated on several levels by so explicitly political elements, the enemies of the United States and the enemies of fascism are beginning to look very much alike. Only traitors to the country have anything to fear. So we get an extra 5% fascism popularity, less national unity, more recruits, and more fascism support. Which, giant boost to our recruits. Yes, I have read I'm making a Fascist America. What I'm going for is the New World Order achievement and a whole bunch of other generic achievements. And America is in an amazing place to get New World Order. Because they get wars against everybody. Wars against Great Britain. They get wars against the Soviets. And if we weren't going fascist, we would get wars against Germany and Japan as well. But since all that's required is that every country be fascist, these guys already are way ahead of the game. And another good thing about America is the fact that they get reaffirming the Monroe Doctrine and all these spheres of influence, which, when you flip to being a fascist America, start becoming, instead of democratic influence, democratic support, it becomes fascist support. So, they are in a very good place to form a new world order. And I'm going to go ahead and grab Construction 2 since it's 1937. Way behind on my industrial right now, which is rare for me, honestly. I'm usually way ahead. Oh, actually, I didn't even look at this. Superior firepower expert, probably end up getting Omar Bradley. Because we go superior firepower and will give us some more experience. As much as I love to do Robert Oppenheimer or Robert H. Goddard, we really need that experience. So this is probably going to be the next guy I hire, is Omar Bradley. But yeah, the fascism is now ticking along. We're at 40%, so we still have a little bit to go. Carrier primacy. Plus 20 organization for our carriers and extra self-targeting. We get carrier task force, which is another 20. Light cruiser task force 20, more targeting. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for this one. 71 days, that's just way too quick. Can't pass that shit up. It looks like world tension is going to stay high enough for us to at least get the war propaganda, which will give us volunteer only. So cannot complain about that. Because disarm nation sucks. That extra 0.5% is going to give us probably close to, 500,000 people to recruit. And maybe once we flip over to fascist, we can get a few more after we go limited or extensive conscription. Strategic bombing. The capacity to execute precision bombing will allow us to stop the war machine of any nation in its tracks. And now let's get war propaganda. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. We will be back next episode with the rest of Fascist America, soon to be Fascist America. They're at 41% right now. And when they get to 50, the MTTH starts happening again. Alright, join us next time. Bye-bye.